The three ways, the purgative way, or rather the second thing, the illuminative way and the unitive way. Now, these have been used in the church, or probably in the second century, starting with Origen, and then taken up by Gregory of Nyssa in the third century. And I think from then on, it becomes kind of standard way of expressing the experience that people have of prayer, not only the mystics, but also the beginners. Now, the first way, called the purgative way, it's not a very nice word, purgative. It has any number of meanings, but he used it in this way as a way of life. It's a way of trial. It's a way of difficulties. It's getting to God through the cross, and the purgative way then it's the way of beginners, and we all have gone through that already, and sometimes for whatever reasons we fall back into it even when we are far advanced into the unitive way. But so the purgative way then is a way of difficulties, of trial and error, but not without its consolations and its, you might say, its enjoyment and awareness of the graces and the consolations of God. It's not without them, but still at the same time, it's a way of struggle. And everyone you know what it is already because you all have gone through it. The second way then is the illuminative way, and this is the way of light. It's still a way of struggle, but the struggles are on a very, very different level. Some of the same things that you experience in the purgative way, you can experience in the illuminative way. But the experience, while you might say physically, it was the same thing, mystically or spiritually, it was quite a different experience. The way of illumination, the way of light. This is when you start going beyond the cataphatic, going beyond the use of words, and you dab into, as it were, mystical prayer or contemplative meditation or centering prayer, and you begin to enter into that light. It's a strange kind of light. The cloud of unknowing actually refers to it as a ray of darkness, even though it's we call it the illuminative way, the way of light. But it's in some ways not so much concerned with the purgations, with the struggling, but it's a way that involves some enjoyment, a way that obviously is one experiences an advancement that they're conscious of in their relationship to God, and consequently in their relationship to God's creation. I wonder if this isn't why it's called the illuminative way, because it lights our way to an understanding of all of the manifestations of God's divine love. That, by the way, I just snuck in, is the title of Julian of Norwich wonderful book, the manifestations of divine love. Any manifestation of divine love ultimately has to be an illumination, even when it is at the same time a purgation. So then the third way is the unitive way, This is what the cloud of unknowing calls the way of the perfect. Uh, I think during this life, we do experience the unitive way, not as a ongoing, steady, uninterrupted experience, but it's something that only now and then we taste something of the union with God in contemplation. But we also experience many of the marvelous effects of union with God, the transformation of ourselves by way of wisdom and knowledge and understanding, and our way of looking at the world, even though we may seem to be just the same as somebody in the purgative way, and we may be doing the same things that they're doing, but we are transformed, and we are doing them on a totally, completely different level. Uh, Perhaps the source for a deeper understanding of the Unitive way would be the Cloud of Unknowing, the author of the Cloud of Unknowing. When he finished the Cloud, 20 years later, he wrote another little book called the Book of the Privy Counseling. And I think in there we do see a wonderful example of what the unitive way is. I'll just give you this little example from the Book of Privy Counseling. He describes say a simple peasant lives in his little cottage, and he gets up in the morning and he lights the fire, and he maybe cooks his cereal or whatever it might be, and then he dresses and he goes out to work in the field, and he works until noontime, and then he stops and sits down and probably eats his piece of dark bread and his sweet onion, and then goes back to work until sunset, and then goes back to the house, and maybe he has supper, he prays, then he retires. Well, there may be another cottage just behind him or next to him, where someone else is doing the same thing. But the one who's doing it, one of them is in the purgative way, and one is in the unitive way. The one in the unitive way, although it may not be recognizable, is doing it in a totally different level of reality. He's doing it in a way that is closer to God than he is to himself. And he will manifest that because there is no way you can have this closeness to God in the unitive way without at the same time having a similar closeness to other human beings and to all the manifestations of God's love in the totality of his creation. So not only with people, but with animals, not only with animals, but with things, with all of God's creation. So that's the purgative, the illuminative, and the unitive way.